Welcome back to Off the Grid. It has been too long since we had our last episode, but we are back and we've got a full house today. We've got Steven with us from Tesla. Jesse is back with us. We've got a new member here, Rich from Car Guru, a cool channel you are going to have to definitely subscribe to. We've got Jeff with us, as always, Rob, and of course myself, Zach. So we've got a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it. The first thing I want to hit on here is that Rich is with us. Rich has done some astounding things. We found Rich on YouTube. We had heard about you through some Facebook links saying you have to check this guy out. He has done something amazingly stupid and amazingly amazing, is that you bought a salvage Tesla. Right? That was your first thing. Mm-hmm. And this Tesla was wet.
It was more than wet. It was actually in the ocean. And it was submerged for many hours. And what happened was, I saw this car on I think it was Copart. And I was like, how hard could this be? I was just like, a little water, no big deal. I'll just get a giant bag of rice, throw it in the car and I'll just call it a day. And what ended up happening was, I had no prior experience with Teslas whatsoever. And when I got the car home, I didn't know what to do. So it couldn't get off the trailer because everything in the Tesla is electronic. So the e-brakes were locked. Nothing worked at all.
Oh my God.
So I had to jack each wheel up individually with an engine crane, get each wheel off the car, put a dolly under each wheel, which took about 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had to use my truck, anchor it onto the car, and use my truck to drag it off at about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. So your wife was asleep.
So she was asleep. She was asleep.
Okay.
She wanted
For a moment.
right. She wanted nothing to do with
Until
this.
the tree fell.
Right. And then and then once I pulled it off the trailer with my truck, I just thought to myself, what did I get myself into?
So you just cried all night long.
Right. And then that's the beginning of that saga. And here I am today.
But okay, so you did that, but then now you own more than one salvage Tesla.
Correct.
So you didn't learn from your mistakes. Is that
I did not, nor would I ever. So long story short, it took the better part of a year to get that one going, and I could share some details with you guys, a little bit later. But I got that one going. I'll call her Dolores. If you guys watch, Westworld, you guys know what I'm talking about.
awesome?
So her name's Dolores, and here's the reason why it's hard for me to get things done, because I'm a speed freak. I have a Z06. I love fast cars, and the P85 is a fast car, but it's not the fastest. And ever since I got the P85, I was like, I have to have a faster car. So before I was 100% done with Dolores, putting the interior back in, I confirmed that she did run and drive. I went out and I said to myself, I have to have a P85D. So about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I went out and I found a wrecked P85D that had flipped over maybe 10 or 12 times.
Is this the red one?
This is the red one.
Okay.
Her name's Maeve, again, Westworld.
Right. Okay. You know that doesn't end well, right?
Yeah, right. I knew that I needed the components out of her. So it wasn't
This is the one that when you hooked up a 12-volt battery to it and you'd never done that before, it came to life.
It came to life.
Oh, I just watched that video. Yeah,
It was absolutely amazing.
I couldn't believe
car,
that.
So I've been watching this car for a while. The entire roof was crushed.
Mm-hmm.
The entire structure of the car shifted. It was like a rhombus.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And then it sat outside for God knows how long.
It sat outside for 1 year.
Oh my gosh.
Because the reason why I know this is because when I got my flooded car, I saw this car as well.
Oh, wow.
But it hadn't gone up for sale. I just saw it sitting in a field in Delaware for a year.
Wow.
So this car was waiting for me.
Wow.
So she sat there for a year while I fixed Dolores. And then when I was almost on Dolores, she came up for sale.
And you
This is
never
a sign.
questioned that no one else but you would get this car.
Yeah, I just I told the guy that I used that he facilitates the purchasing of the vehicles for me, and I knew immediately I was like, I have to have this car. So as you said, the car sat in the field for a year. I said, you know what? Let me just try this thing out. I hooked up a 12-volt battery.
I literally thought you were crazy when you did that. I'm like, what is he wasting his time for?
12-volt battery to the car. The car fired up. All the door handles extended.
The air conditioning turned on.
The air conditioner
Oh my
turned
God.
on. And
the screen turned on.
Yeah.
Both screens turned on. The instrument cluster and the MCU both turned on.
And you can touch them.
And I could do stuff.
I just have to say,
I could do stuff.
you have to go watch this video because
Yeah.
it's tremendously amazing. It's like in the sci-fi movie where they uncover the spaceship that's buried underground or whatever, and they like they like plug something in, the whole thing turns on. You're like, whoa!
Oh my gosh! Yeah, they go driving it.
Oh my gosh.
But the idea that a company that makes electronics all in house, that's not used to automotive, durability, built this entire system, and it sat exposed to the elements for a year, and
It wasn't
all it
just
needed
the
was
car.
power.
It's not like they parked it.
No.
They first smashed it. Then they let it sit in a field.
Yeah, and then by the way, this car was not covered.
Right.
Yeah.
The rain,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
elements,
Yeah.
the snow.
Yeah.
It sat there. I don't know many cars that could do that. Maybe a Toyota pickup, like in Top Gear. But other than that, I mean, it's sitting out in the field for that long was a testament as to how well built these cars are. So there's no doubt in my mind that if all 4 axles weren't busted and all the airbags didn't deploy, that if I had the key, I could put it in drive and it would just go. Wow. Not even kidding you. Again, the windows work, the door. I mean, the second I plugged in the terminals, and I heard that creaking noise of all 4 door handles extended. Mind you, the doors are smashed. This car rolled.
Right.
And,
Well, the door handles were protected. They were in.
They were kind
They
of
were airborne. There was no.
It was fine.
Well, actually, no, because I believe as a safety responder mechanism, I think the door handles
Deploy.
have to be extended. A lot of the ones that I've seen, the handles are extended.
Oh, wow.
So if you
for
get
response
hit in an
to pull it-
accident, they automatically come out.
I think so, yeah. So it's easier for someone from the outside to be able to pull it open.
Little rubber slide as well,
Yeah.
Safe to get you.
Right.
So is the plan to take the parts from this D and put it into Dolores, or is the
Well, Dolores, that's my baby. I'm gonna keep her the way she is for now.
Okay.
Actually, well, I take that back. Dolores
don't
started.
tell Dolores this?
Dolores started her life as an S85.
Okay.
So she was in New Jersey in a flood, and the thread that I posted on the forum, the old owner reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, dude, that's my car." It's amazing. He goes, "Hey, I have a half-eaten burrito under the seat." I was like, "Oh my God." And he actually did. And so he reached out to me. He goes, "Yeah, anything you need, just let me know." And she was an S85, and I was like, "I want a faster car. Like, I gotta get a faster car." Now, as I started rebuilding her, and by rebuilding I mean tearing things out and crying every night, I realized that there was no way that this car was going to be able to get going on its own. I've heard stories about people not being able to rebuild these cars because, quite frankly, Tesla's like, "No, I'm not gonna. No, you can't. We won't sell you parts to build a salvage car." So what I had to do was I had to purchase another car. So this is my second one. And the one that I purchased was a P85. So what I did was the white P85 was in an accident, but all the electronics were good.
Okay.
So I harvested all those electronics,
Brain transplant.
essentially, yeah.
Because you got to take everything.
Literally every single nut and bolt out of the flooded car, everything. I mean, everything was corroded. The chargers, I found a dead fish in the back of the car. I mean, it was really underwater.
What made you? I mean, because you've done this to ice cars before. You've rebuilt
Yes.
ice cars.
Yes.
But what made you think that you could do it to a Tesla, which is a completely different animal? Like,
Well, here's a funny story behind that, and that's how I met my friend Phil in California. And Phil, I mean, it's really hard to have a conversation about salvage cars and not bring up Phil because he knows this stuff really well. So when I was initially looking at getting into a Tesla, I've heard great things about them. They're fantastic cars. I was an engineer myself, and I said, I love cars, so I have to, this makes sense. It's a perfect matrimony. You get electronics, you get a fast car, it's perfect. And I said to myself, I want to purchase a car at a lower price point. I want to be able to drive this thing. It's going to be awesome. So the flooded one, I didn't realize just how much of an effect water would have on a car. Who knew?
it's aluminum. Why would it?
Right, yeah. Well, what's the worst that could happen? So what I ended up doing was I found the car, and the forum had a guru, which was Phil. And I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm interested in this car. What do you think?" And he said, "Oh, that's a piece of cake. Let's do it." And that's what set the wheels in motion.
Wow, so it's all Phil's
because
fault.
if
set
this
you up.
guy said that it's easy, me not knowing his IQ was 600, if he said it was easy, and I'm a hands-on guy, I could do this. So I purchased the car, and then I started working on it, and there was salt everywhere. I should have brought some of the electronics with me. There was salt everywhere. Everything was rusted, corroded.
Wow.
The car wouldn't respond at all. And I said, Phil, hey, I thought this would be easy. What's going on here? And he said, oh, well, I didn't know it was salt water. I was like, oh, because the fresh water is completely different than salt water, obviously. And because it's an older car, there were, as Tesla made revisions, as you know, Tesla makes revisions to these cars, every 5 minutes. No two cars are the same. On the newer cars, I think the 13s and 14s, they started to coat the electronics in a layer that would prevent water corrosion to the body control module. And the body control module actually sits below the passenger side floor pan. Okay. So now if you get in a little water, it gets a little wet, no big deal, they're coated. So, I was like, well, no big deal, it should be coated. Pulled it out, it was not coated. It was one of the prior years that didn't actually get that in process yet, but it was a heck of a ride. So that's kind of what set the wheels in motion when he said, just what's the big deal? Go for it. Not realizing it's not his money, it's not his time, it's not his car.
It's also because his first car was a flood, so he started with a flood car too. He stripped down, but it was freshwater.
It was freshwater. So I talked to him. And that's what set it off too. He said, well, mine was easy. I dried it out, and then it worked. I'm like, oh, I can do that. It's the easiest thing in the world.
So this is like the movie It Follows that we're going to be reviewing next. So basically, are you going to pass on this disease to someone else, like in a forum? You're going to be like, oh yeah, dude, no problem.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I documented my entire journey. So
I know you've got so much of it on video.
People know that this is not. It's a heck of a task.
It's a 1 or 2 or 3 man job for a year or 2 years.
Aren't you worried that your wife can use this footage against you if she wants to file for divorce?
True. I'm hoping that's another funny point you bring up because she doesn't. I don't think she knows I have a YouTube channel. Keep it
that way.
I don't think she actually knows, and she and you know what? She's actually not. A lot of wives, oh, that's so cool. She just doesn't care.
Right.
Like she just doesn't. She goes, okay,
perfect.
All I know is that this thing takes up maybe 85 to 90% of my husband's time. And once he's done, okay, really nice, honey, when are you coming inside? And that's really it. There's no interest, so it's perfect.
What does she think about the car? And is the car named Dolores when she gets in it?
That's a very good question. Those are things I haven't tackled as yet. But
we're here for you. We're your support.
But you know what? She sees a car as an appliance. I wake up, I start the car, I drive to work, and then I drive back. Maybe listen to the radio. Maybe put a window or two down, and to get from point A to point B. The only time that her ears started perking up and her just getting interested in it when the entire neighborhood, random people off the street, friends, family, would just be like, oh my gosh, your husband has a Tesla? That's crazy. That's the only time that she's like, maybe this is a big deal. Actually. So, but yeah,
What's
so that's
he
what
doing
we
in
got
there?
right now. Yeah.
What's he always doing?
Yeah, she's never here. So,
wow. So do you have big plans for, I guess you mentioned you might be going to a supercharger with it.
So yeah, that's the goal. So
what's the big deal about the supercharger? Like, I don't understand.
Now, the supercharging is huge because for salvage cars, what happens is Tesla deems them unsafe and not roadworthy.
Okay.
So they'll disable supercharging.
Oh, so it knows when you plug into a supercharger, Tesla knows what car that is and whether or not it will turn it on.
Supercharging is enabled, correct? Because supercharging didn't come with all cars.
Yes, and so the disabling you're talking about, there's 2 ways they can actually disable it now. The disabling you're talking about is remote disabling, where they make a change to the software in the car.
Right.
And then the car internally, it's now kind of software hardware switch to not allow supercharging. So that's one type of disabling.
Right.
The new type of disabling, which we'll see what happens, which is related to the metered charging, non-unlimited supercharging, is that the car communicates its VIN to the supercharger every time you plug it in. So they, A, have a way to bill you now. And B, potentially have another way to block you. So
So there's 2 ways basically you could plug in and they could go nope.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, and so you don't know what'll happen.
I don't know. It's never been supercharged. This is uncharted territory.
Oh wow.
So what about Chatamo though? That's
So
volume,
this, so
right? You
this
can
is
do that.
this is where the next thing is. So the reason you would want supercharging on any car, right, and not just supercharging, high power DC charging, is so you can take a trip.
Correct.
You want to go to more than 200 miles.
Right.
So Tesla's network is this whole, proprietary network with serial numbers and all that stuff.
Right.
But you also have access to DC fast charge, which Tesla doesn't adapt to, and Chatamo, which it does adapt to. And there's no software, communication, anything there.
Oh, so your car should be able to do CHAdeMO charging.
So if you take a CHAdeMO adapter on any car and go to a 60 kilowatt, or higher charger, you should still be able to high speed charge it.
Gotcha.
Assuming that the safety factors are all in place.
The only charging that I've done so far is 120 volt right to the wall charge.
Trickle charge.
Oh, okay.
So you haven't even tried like a level
level
2
two.
or some a
3 to
bit.
5
We could
mile
charge
hour
that. We could try that today. That could be.
I think it's like 3. Yeah,
Yep.
it's pretty slow.
Yeah, it's 1.2 kilowatts per hour.
So that's the only charging I've done so far. So the reason why this is a big deal is because Tesla generally says, hey, you know what? You've been in an accident.
Yeah.
You can no longer supercharge due to the safety factor of the supercharging network. If you repair something incorrectly and 2 wires are touching, you could blow up their network.
Yeah, I mean, it's a credibility,
Right.
and there's a brand issue for them, which I totally get.
Which makes
But
sense.
from an owner's perspective, yeah, you totally want to be able to DC fast charge your car to get places.
That's the whole point. So this is big for me because let's just say that it doesn't supercharge. Now what?
Right.
CHAdeMO.
Because
You're going to try CHAdeMO next.
because the car is essentially, I mean, even from a resale standpoint, like because even
Right.
the
It's like a double leaf.
right, yeah, even the older cars like I think the 40s didn't come with supercharging by default.
Yep. Yeah, you did. So on my car, I had to pay to get the supercharger, the dual chargers for home, and then
Right.
supercharging enabled.
Right. So you had to do that, and that's one thing that they did. But now it's a supercharge enabled 40 is worth a lot more than a non-supercharge enabled 40.
Yeah.
So is it the kind of thing that you could go to a service center and get them to like no?
That's a very good question. So Tesla will happily take the car, and they'll happily also take maybe about $3,000 to $4,000 of my hard-earned money to recertify the car.
Okay.
When the car's recertified, they will enable. So first, they'll go over the whole car, make sure it's roadworthy, make sure there's no errors that have been cleared and properly, and they'll also re-enable supercharging, and they'll also re-enable the 3G because every car has built-in 3 and 4G.
Right.
Right, Tesla pays for your data plan. So
Correct.
Yep.
So that's another thing that they disable as well. When a car gets in an accident, they typically disable the supercharging as well as the 3 and 4G. 'Cause that's an expense that they fill out of pocket. So
So that means right now your car doesn't have a lot of the features like nav and stuff like that.
well,
Or
it does. Well, here's the
Just put your own SIM in it.
you could do that, but thankfully, and I know this is gonna go viral, and Tesla's probably gonna be like, nope, denied.
we'll grade this up.
Yeah, my 3G does work.
Oh.
It does work.
So it doesn't work. That's too bad, Rich.
But here's the interesting thing about the car and connectivity, which is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, because most, even like the Bolt and some of the new cars, most people don't think about their car as being constantly connected, but the car is.
Yes.
So yes, Tesla pays for your data plan because not just for your benefit, but for their benefit too.
Right.
They want your Autopilot data. They want they want remote diagnostics.
Yeah.
But the way that they do it is through a VPN connection. So basically, your car is a roaming work laptop. And the key to this for people who are tinkerers is that VPN connection doesn't have to end at Tesla. It can end somewhere else. So for those of us who are interested on the computer side of things, you can take your car, which is or isn't alive, and as long as the electronics work, you can put your own data card in it. Yep. You can modify the software to do what you need, and now it's no longer Tesla's car, it's a little more your car.
Correct.
Interesting.
It's like jailbreaking your phone.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's kind of taking back control of
Right.
something you bought. So that's the mentality.
And Tesla despises
yes,
that.
they absolutely hate that.
Because as you know, anytime a Tesla's in an accident, whether it catches fire, if someone passes gas in a Tesla, you know it. Like you know about it. And to say that if a person like me, but not me, repairs the car improperly, it gets into an accident.
Yeah, and it gives them bad PR.
The headline's gonna say Tesla gets another one of these cars in an accident. It's not gonna say this knucklehead named Rich improperly repaired a Tesla and it blew up in his yard. It's just gonna say, hey, you know what?
So it's
these
almost
cars
in
are
their
unsafe.
best interest to give you that recertification for free, in a way.
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. That
You hear what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and
Wink, wink.
that's an ongoing thing. Tesla needs to. Thankfully, we live in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts has the right to repair law.
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit? Because we're one of the only states, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's like two, I think. That
Yeah,
have it,
right. So when I was going through repairing this car, they had no access to the service manuals. All over the forums, everyone's saying, I can't get access to service manuals. I don't know how to repair this car. How do I do this? How do I do that? So I said, hey, I'm in Mass. What's this whole thing all about? And they said, well, oh my gosh, you're in a right to repair state. You have access to the service manuals. And what right to repair means is that if your car gets into an accident and it needs repair or it needs service of some kind, the owner should have the ability to take the car anywhere to get repaired.
Including repairing it themselves.
And because of that, you need to have the proper manuals to disassemble the car and reassemble
so Tesla
it,
has to
etc.
give you those.
In
Tesla
the
has
States.
to, yes,
Yeah,
in this state. So I feel like they only created that document for this state. I mean, it's super crude and not very well done, and it looks like someone used like their cell phone to take a lot of the pictures.
Really?
In a.
Well, so the data, basically what happens is all the service centers, when the technicians are doing repairs, they just use their laptop to access the online, published version of it.
Yeah.
And what the right to repair in Massachusetts gives you access to is to pay to access that data. And it's the
Correct.
same for any brand of car. Tesla's is just a much more digitally oriented service repair manual.
Correct.
So I've seen multiple versions of this, including offline versions.
Right.
So the kind of crappy screenshotted version is quite a bit better.
Right. So and that's the thing is that so it's paid, which is also a surprise to me as well. I was like, oh, I pay like a couple $100.
Yeah, like you go get your fodders or your manual from the repair shop. It's like
Right.
$50. No.
So if I wanted it I was like, well, I want this for a year. It's about like $3,500.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for a month it's like $300 or $400. It's quite a while.
And I think so. I had it for an hour,
Yes.
and I was like,
Just
oh,
taking notes like
yeah, this is
physically?
okay.
So, but again, going back to the computer side of things, it's a digital manual. It's
Yeah.
a website with appropriate computer knowledge. 1 day's worth of access yields a copy of the website.
Gotcha.
Good.
So you pay your $300 and there you go.
Right.
But it's constantly being updated.
Yeah. So here's the
Correct,
thing.
yes.
For the type of stuff that he's talking about, these are older cars, and you don't have to worry about it being out of date.
I see.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, okay, so once a year, you go in once a year. Model X's. Who's the first person who's going to take a wrecked Model X and try to repair it? That data is all online. Who wants to repair a Roadster? That data is also part of
Right.
the online data.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of how often the cars are changing and how old your car is.
Right. But the interesting part is that there's a lot of good things in that manual as well, and it becomes very quickly outdated, the manual.
Sure.
To your point, because there's a lot of TSBs, the technical service bulletins.
Yep.
Now, they change so many parts on these cars so quickly. The older cars, and even some of the newer ones, they get outdated very fast. For some cases, a service bulletin will say, hey, you know what? If the customer complains of a creaking noise, we didn't apply enough glue under the rear seat. If the customer complains about X, please tighten this screw. Those are very important things to know, because as you're driving your car, there's miscellaneous things here and there, like a strange vibration noise.
Especially on an electric car that makes no other noises,
Right.
so you hear everything.
So you hear everything. So this is very important. So it tells you, if the customer experiences X, tell them Y, which is huge.
Oh,
And, this is 90% of the symptoms that you guys may have.
Right.
If you have like a Model X or whatever,
Yeah.
and one of the Falcon doors gets stuck in this position, customer complains about this, they'll say, okay, great, unplug this wiring harness, plug it back in, and secure it with duct tape, and it should be good to go. Those are and those are some things that they don't say duct tape, but they say,
Use
Tesla authorized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's tease on it.
Yeah. So they say that, but those bulletins have been, very important.
Now let me ask you, when you were first thinking of buying your first car
Yep.
that was salvaged, had you driven in a Tesla before?
I saw one, and my friend, or I can't say his name, works at Tesla.
Okay.
And he showed up and he said, hey, I'm gonna bring a Tesla by. I was like, oh, that electric junk, get that thing out of here. Get that thing out of here. Unless it makes, those V8 noises, I don't want to hear it. And then he brought it up anyways. And he's like, yeah, it's a service loaner, I just gotta bring it up, show it to you guys. I'm like, okay, cool. So, I sat down at it and I said, okay, kind of basic. It has the same interior as like a Acura, a TL, something like that. Nice interior, but nothing, over the top. But he said, you're ready to go for a drive. And I was like, well, aren't you gonna start it? And like not thinking it's an electric car. He's like, yeah, it's already good to go. And I was like, what are you talking about? And as I was talking, he took his right foot and he stomped it down on the accelerator. And this is back when, this is probably 2013, I think.
So
they
probably
just come out the year
P85
before.
at the best.
It was I think it was a P85. Not even a D, not even a D car. And he stomped on it no tire squeal, but it just pinned me in the back of the seat. It felt like someone was holding my neck against the seat.
Yes, that's the feeling.
And it was the scariest, most
Delightful,
thrilling,
yeah.
delightful things ever. And I said, thank you very much. I'd like to get out now. Right? I got out of the car, I said, hey, thanks for the ride. Went on the internet and looked at buying one. And
Yeah, because it's a totally different driving experience. Even in a low power car, because you have the torque experience is not
Instant.
like anything.
It's instant. I have a Z06, a Corvette Z06, and it makes approximately a little north of 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful car, very fast car. But if you look at the dyno sheets, look at the dyno sheet, okay?
What's the experience? What's the from zero experience?
It's great. You step on the gas in the Z06.
You get the nice rev and you get your little torque build and
right. The torque builds gradually, right? And the car gets more and more powerful, and you're like, oh wow, this is cool. However, because it's it's cammed and has an exhaust, everyone within 4 blocks knows that you've accelerated. Everyone knows that. So, but it's a great car on the highway. It pulls really great. However, in the Model S, you get that torque. There's no ramp up.
yeah.
You better be ready for it.
It's an amusement. It's literally an amusement park ride on wheels.
So around town, I mean, suffice to say, the Tesla Model S is 10 times more entertaining to drive around town than the Corvette is.
Yeah, so the thing my track friends like to tell me is anything electric up to 100 miles an hour is awesome. If you're on the track and you're going 150, you want the extra gears and you want the extra horsepower and all that. But around town, it's a sleeper. Nobody hears or sees anything.
It's a
just
no-brainer.
gone.
It's a no-brainer. And even with a Camry, they get those guys in Camrys or Civics that want to race everything and
Soup it up. Yeah.
Soup it up.
Yeah.
And then then they step on the gas. It sounds like someone farting continuously. And so they take off, but everyone turns their head like, hey, what was that? But the Tesla, it's the silent killer. You could just step on it and you go, and no one's none the wiser.
No.
Yeah, up to that highway speed range, the car will go anywhere you want in a second. Just stand on the accelerator, and it's amazing.
Jesse and I were shooting in an episode the other day where we were testing out the little drawer in the Tesla that we just got, and we got up to 30 miles an hour in our driveway. It's just it's things you never thought you could do before. I was like, wow, we just hit 30 and I was able to stop in the driveway.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It's an amazing experience.
And with the police is not nice because the Corvette, you're gonna get stopped. They see him.
Yeah,
right?
automatically. It's just, oh yeah, hey, look.
We've all had that experience. The set of lights that's a mile down the road can hear you a mile down the road.
Exactly.
And they will follow you.
Exactly. I'm not really sure if I could. This is tough because a lot of people are very anti-ICE internal combustion engine, and they'll say, you know what, I'll only have a Tesla, and I was like, I could never be me. I need my fast gas powered car. This is the first time in history I'm actually reconsidering that.
Woohoo! Wow.
I'm actually reconsidering it.
And this is from a guy you've been rebuilding cars
I'm
for
a
a long
hardcore.
time.
I mean, V8, supercharged V8s, twin turbo V6s, you named it. I've owned it before, but this is the first time I've ever been thinking, well, you know what? This is pretty damn good. Because I realize that 99.9% of my driving is stoplight to stoplight, mild highway, and, I'm getting older to the point where on the highway, I can't cruise at, 160 miles an hour anymore. That's not even a reality. I have to drive like a regular, functioning human being, and going over 100 is like a rarity.
Right.
And that's actually so. Unless you're going to the track, right? That's the other place where not the electric part of it, but the autopilot becomes a factor because you have marriage and kids, and you're on the highway, and you're trying to get somewhere with your precious bundle of whatever.
Right.
You want a car that's safe.
Right.
You want a car that takes some of the monotony out of it. So we're now actually talking 100% in the opposite direction. It's no longer about vroom vroom, enjoying the drive or anything. It's about safety, convenience, and not being bored. Which is, in all honesty, when you're on the highway in a law enforced area, and it's not the track. How much fun is it to go 75 or 80 miles an hour for hours on end?
It's not. And I have
Especially as you get older.
and the Corvette, it's camped, it's loud, it shakes. I can't have
Stiff suspension.
I can't have a conversation with like we're sitting this close together. In the Corvette, I have to like write it on paper and pass it to you. Like there's no, it's. I love the car, but it gets old after a while.
It does. I got rid of my BRZ, as much fun as it was to drive.
Yeah.
Because it was just a driving car. Like it was a car you could only enjoy for so long before I wasn't comfortable.
Right.
It was too loud. It was whatever it was.
Right.
So there's a place for that. But, in terms of day-to-day, daily fun around town, electric has got it beat every which way.
Absolutely.
So this leads me to a Model 3 question. So Jesse and I are going to be lucky enough to go to the Fremont factory for a VIP tour. We might even get to sit in the Model 3. Nice. This leads to an AP question, so Autopilot question. Do you have Autopilot in any of the cars that you've rebuilt so far?
I have Autopilot in the new car, Maeve, which is the one that rolled over, which is in the process of being rebuilt, yes.
That would be the Autopilot 1 hardware.
AP
That's a lot of work to be redoing the cameras with that, I would think.
This will be a daunting I got kind of cocky when I rebuilt the first one. I was like, oh, it's easy. Yeah. So now I'm going from rebuilding a very simple single motor car to dual motors. Now there's 2 motors to think about, and there's also AP hardware, and there's also maybe 5 or 6 additional wiring harnesses that I haven't accounted for.
Yep.
So there's a lot more going on there.
Wow.
So the question is, with the Model 3, I think a lot of people signed up. So there's almost 500,000 people signed up reserved for the Model 3. I think a lot of them don't drive Teslas yet. I think a lot of those people are just people excited to get into a low-price Tesla. So they haven't experienced Autopilot at all. And this is going to come up with the most advanced Autopilot 2, which in theory in November or December should be able to drive from California to New York by itself.
Untouched. Yeah.
And I think most people who are thinking buying the Model 3 haven't even considered that aspect of the Model 3 yet. Even though they kind of know that it'll have the hardware, I think they haven't wrapped their head around what this car might be able to do because A, they haven't quite done it yet, right? Autopilot 2 hasn't quite gone fully autonomous. And B, you unless you're sitting in an Autopilot car with the steering wheel doing the job, I don't think you can fully appreciate like what it's
Yeah,
doing.
when you guys did your trip, I mean that was a huge element of the trip, right? It's the monotony part.
Right.
We've got 6,000 miles to go. Like,
Exactly.
what does that? How does that change the
Right.
experience?
South Africa.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask you guys, like, first of all, how much Autopilot have you guys experienced so far, and how big a difference in driving has it made for you guys? We'll just start with you, Stephen.
Always. Just
You're in it
I'm
always.
anytime I can, I'm using it. Truly. I mean, because A, building up the data for the company, but B, just
Of course, he's thinking of Tesla. Thank
I
you.
am,
Thank you very
but
much.
I mean, but B, no. I mean, the highway driving, there's no other solution. Like, you can actually enjoy, and you're not, that tenseness in long road trips is mitigated. It's not there. It's non-existent. You're just enjoying the road. You're relaxed. Your seat's reclined, and I'm not saying you're not paying attention, but like, you're carrying a conversation. You can make eye contact. Like,
So the guys at MIT that are doing the study, I was talking
Yes.
to Lex recently, and he said one of the fascinating things that they got out of the data was that it actually, Autopilot makes you more relaxed. So they have actual data now that shows when you drive with Autopilot, the experience is better, and it's just a more relaxing,
I mean, when you think of it from a traffic standpoint, if you're on the highway, I mean, God forbid you have to do that. Like, if you're doing highway traffic, stop and go.
Yeah, California
you're
traffic.
you're not doing anything. Those sensors are taking over every part of it. You're really just carrying on and waiting for that to go away.
And so think about what your brain has to do
Right.
as opposed to all the sensors. So you have all these sensors and software doing it for you, and all that concentration and mental power you would be putting into not hitting the guy in front of you, not
Right.
getting hit from behind, not all these things are gone.
It's called having more shower thoughts. You know, like the typical thoughts you have in the shower, you now have them in the vehicle.
Interesting.
It's true, though.
The first comment I get from non-Tesla drivers is, well, that would make me tired.
No, that's not
And it's like,
We have
well,
data that says
and
otherwise.
it's like, I know it may seem that way, but like, try it. It won't make it. No, I could never trust it. How do you trust that?
Yeah.
And it's like,
You have a great amount of, like you said, the Model 3 owners, there's a great amount of them out there that have never had the experience.
Yeah.
So they don't know what it's like.
right.
It's counterintuitive, but honestly, it's the same thing that we get arguments about all the time about gas. Oh, I couldn't just go on a road trip and gas up at any gas station. Well, I couldn't leave the house and not have a full tank. You know, it's like, it's just that people, they don't get it until they do it.
And they sit there and they complain. It's like, oh, it's going to take me that much longer to go from point A to point B. It's like, no, not really. When you think of the hours that you spend and you go to the bathroom and you get your snacks and you fiddle on your phone or play with your Pokedex, like, you're already wasting that time
Yeah.
The amount of time that you've added in charging, it's the same.
Yeah.
Completely the same.
I think there's such a huge thing too is that you can get in a car, sit in the driver's seat, put it in autopilot for 5 minutes or whatever. But if you don't do it for about half an hour, kind of retrain your brain as to like how this thing works, you're gonna walk away from it being like, I don't know if I like it, because the first 5 minutes are weird. The first 5 minutes
like,
is the scariest thing ever because there's no person who's like, hi, my name's Reginald. I'm driving the car for you. Don't worry about it.
Good accent. Wow.
Yeah. He's like,
That's amazing.
there's no, it's not a driver. It's not some guy named Jeeves who's driving the car for you. It's just the car. It's just silently, it goes boom, and then it says, I've got you.
It's exactly that. It's training.
Maybe
It's the
they need a
difference.
British instead of badum. Maybe they need like, I built it. No.
Yeah. I mean, once you get past that 30 minutes, you're just like, and I think it should be through a couple different traffic scenarios of, on the highway.
Although I'll tell you, I took Steven for his first autopilot drive,
Yeah,
and he
you did.
drove behind the wheel, and he did not take him
Let
5
me-
minutes.
let me tell you,
He was like, after 2 seconds, like, this is
Well, let me tell you, I think it's all about brain plasticity. I think it's all about how fast
and he
you
has a
train your
plastic brain.
Yeah. I think it's the same thing with segues. It's the same thing with anytime you introduce someone to a new thing and the controls are not what they're used to.
Where potential bodily harm can occur.
Exactly. As soon as and there's like a sense of danger, and they're like, I don't know. It's important for people if they want to truly experience autopilot, is that they should really
Go for at least a supercharger drive.
Yeah,
or
like,
something.
Go
like-
for a length. That's
Well, so the drive experience now, that's part of the drive experience for new people looking to buy a brand new car.
Absolutely.
That's part of the experience is playing with the autopilot. So.
right.
I did it with my dad. That was a great example. Or my grandfather, actually. Is
Oh, my Lord.
90 years old, mind you. And like having him go from seeing the horse and carriage to this is really like the gravity of that.
So the dream of autopilot for me as I get older and I realize there are people that shouldn't be driving or can't drive.
Yeah.
Right.
My dream is very simple. My dream is that by the time I really should not be operating a 4,000-pound vehicle, I can call my vehicle. It can take me to the grocery store or to the bar to hang out with my friends or to go play whatever, bingo game I'm going to play and bring me home safely. And that will be a service that's available to me because I dread that day. I dread the day that I don't feel, I look at my own parents getting in a car, that they don't look like they feel safe operating a vehicle and I don't want to be there.
My wife feels the same way. My wife, she's in her 30s, and she hates driving. She thinks driving is one of the most
It's a burden to some people.
nerve-wracking
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
Like, what if I get into an accident? What if I don't see this? What if I don't do that? Her constantly having to focus on those things ruins the driving experience for her. Then I asked her one day, I said, what if we were to get a service where I would call someone, you could dial a phone number, they would show up, drive you wherever you need to go, and then bring you back home. She goes, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and there are.
And it made me think, it's just like, there's a huge market for this.
Yeah.
And to your point, there are so many people. There's probably 1 million people that shouldn't be on the road.
Oh, totally.
2 million.
Yeah.
The way that we license in this
In this
country.
state.
Yeah. In this circle. Yeah, whatever. But
Most
it's
people,
In
most
this
people
room?
driving. I mean, you just have to remember for a minute that like people talk about like, oh, does this have enough cameras or whatever? Like, first of all, Autopilot 1 started out with 2 cameras. Guess how many cameras you have? You have 2 cameras.
Right, yeah.
If you're lucky.
Right.
And you have 2 microphones that are inside the car. That's,
Yep.
you have to look using mirrors. It's silly.
The car
And-
can't text.
Right.
Right.
I just want to point out, even for all those
Cars
people,
get tired either.
I mean, even these 18-year-olds who have perfect brains and perfect eyes and everything, they're all texting. So more and more of them every day.
Or playing with the stereo or talking to
Yeah.
their friends in the car,
I
whatever
mean,
it is.
when you're on autopilot, you can see all that crap. Like,
Right.
you can really drive by someone and be like, you're texting.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So just to go down the line here, I have never had an autopilot experience before.
Well,
that's gonna change.
After the episode, shoot.
So the funny thing is that the research study they did at MIT, as you were saying, I could have saved a lot of money and just told them, yes, it's gonna save time. Because this is what I did. Now, when you're driving, you are making. I counted this in a minute span of me driving my truck. You make 100 to 150 micro adjustments as you're driving in a minute.
Yeah.
So as I'm driving the truck, okay, it's swinging one lane, go over here. Who's in that lane? Okay, they're speeding up. That's another adjustment you made. Look in the rearview mirror, anyone coming? Another adjustment you made. Go back here, shift my foot. You're making hundreds of adjustments
Per minute.
in the span of a minute.
Yep.
So imagine 2 hours. Your brain's
it's
fried.
exhausting.
Yep.
It's
Like you
absolutely
don't
exhausting.
think about like, oh, I have to steer the wheel, I have to do this, adjust my feet, do
Yep.
this, look ahead, check my mirror, make sure I'm not gonna do this.
Right. You're like a factory worker.
Yeah, you really are. So that's why when you go somewhere, you're completely drained. Like, why am I tired? Because you've been doing all these things
Right.
unbeknownst to yourself.
Yep.
So taking that out of the equation and just being able to sit down, once you get over your fear and paranoia of the car, just
Will the
losing
tech crazy kill me or not?
yeah, right. Flying into orbit. It's I'm sure it's a completely relaxing experience. I mean, I can't speak to it. Because I've
Me
never seen
neither.
it
Well, you
before.
will be later.
But no, I think it's just it's absolutely fascinating that technology could do this today for us. And just a quick aside, Tesla started this whole movement. Let us not forget how many autopilot cars or how many cars drove or steered themselves before Tesla.
And continue to evolve.
Even today, Volvo was like, hey, you know what? Tesla had the right idea. We're killing diesels now. This is the way to go. Yeah.
Well, the other side note to that is also Autopilot's ability on traffic. Like when you have the car adjusting to the flow of traffic.
Oh
how
my
much-
goodness.
That's one of the most important things that I feel no one discusses.
That's
Right.
called TAC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. But how many times have we been in traffic and it's bumper to bumper, and then you come to find out there's an ambulance up there, there's an accident. It wasn't a major accident, but there's an accident, and you've wasted half an hour of your life because of that.
Right.
And it wouldn't have happened if they're autopilot.
Right. If everyone was using autopilot, they could have rubbernecked all they wanted and not slowed down.
60 miles an hour.
Wow, that's terrible.
Oh, really?
Should his leg be doing that?
Yeah, right.
Whatever, you could do that. Fine.
You're spot on.
Text it to your friend. Take a picture. I mean, who cares?
to
Just
completely-
go 48 miles an hour. Whatever the traffic will allow.
Break up the conversation flow, but we have actual topics we were going to talk about.
Yeah,
this.
oh,
We
sorry,
have-
yeah.
We can talk about cars,
So-
but how about we take a food?
So, yes,
a food break. A food break,
Rob
and then
knows what's
topics.
important. Yes. Let's
So a
get
food
in
and
on
water
the-
break, and then
This is the longest we've gone without touching the cashews. So get in on those cashews.
Let's get those cashews.
Stop your
engaging.
cameras if you need to.
Dylan?
Yeah.
Beer. All right.
So we all had a snack, and we figured we needed something more than water. So now we have
That's
a
right.
little more than water.
Yeah.
We'll see how the rest of the episode goes.
Is he going to speed up or slow down?
All right. So we have some stories here. We have some ideas, some talking points.
Oh, yes. Can I go back to our Model 3 one? So we are going to Fremont to look at the Model 3, and what we want from you guys are things that we should be sleuthing while we're out at the Model 3, things that you think are important. Because here's the thing. Elon's been underselling, what's the term? Anti-selling.
Anti-selling
the Model 3 lately.
Yeah, because he wants to keep people buying current cars because he needs
Right.
that in business, right?
Is he anti-selling because he's already gotten way more reservations than he thought he'd ever get, and so now he's like, oh,
I'm betting he's concerned about the output from the factory. Think about having all those reservations you have to plow through, all those people you have to please. The car has to be bulletproof. I mean, we're talking, Japanese quality, because the customers are buying now are people looking for a reliable car out the door.
Right.
So he may be anti-selling in terms of some of the challenges they had on the early Model S's through recent production, and not wanting that backlog to grow to 4 times that size, because then he's still under that pressure to produce.
He may be seeing things that we don't know about either in terms of production issues. Remember, this is a Rev 1 car.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So when he was first revealing the car, he told us there's going to be a part 2 to the release, like we'd be seeing, and there'd be more impressive stuff. And so far, we haven't really seen if there is anything new that will be released. Do you think that there's a hidden up the sleeve thing he's going to pull out, or do you think it's basically the car we kind of know, a 215 mile
I can see some
range?
techie stuff here.
I think you're on the right track. Previous episode with the charge port, it was a different size and different dimension, and I brought that up with somebody actually that saw the car in person. I said, is this kind of, I told him what you said, and he
What
didn't
did I
anything.
say?
So I remember this one. I think I brought up that point.
I've been drinking beer. I don't know.
The Model 3 there was a picture of one of the candidates, and it looked like it had a much larger charging door than on the Model S or Model X. It looked to me like you could fit a regular standard Tesla outlet, but it looked like you could also fit either a CHAdeMO or a DC fast charger.
Yeah, with the standard in the
there.
US being DC fast charging, they may finally be going that route.
So you wouldn't need to carry any extra
Adapters, yeah.
So you're thinking that it might have an extra way to charge on another network, but are we talking any faster charging than?
No, I think just
more charging.
More charging, so you have
Okay.
Destination
right.
charging that's already, like you think the charge point community that they have, it's just something to simplify the process that, okay, you don't have to plug in an adapter every time.
I mean, the reason that I think the DC fast charger would work pretty well was because it's already I always get this wrong, the J1 772.
So it just does not
plug.
flow right off your.
Yeah, they could just, the standard level 2 plug would fit in it, so you could just come home, plug in.
So here's the
your
other
level
thing
2.
about that though. If they take the American standard plug, which is 1772 round on top and DC fast charge on the bottom, so it's a big triangle plug.
Yeah.
But if they add that directly to the car, A, it bypasses the adapter problem, and B, the whole thing in the news with Volkswagen's settlement, and Volkswagen is now contributing to this infrastructure.
Absolutely,
You
right.
get,
So
you get all their infrastructure.
Yeah, so now you have access to all that infrastructure
You're
that's going to be
doubling your
pulled out.
infrastructure
So
or
we all
whatever.
know that Tesla's bleeding edge charging, and they have a very nice, clean interface and all that stuff. But in the end, if you're in an EV and you need electricity, what do you want? The fastest charging available. So making that
And closest.
yeah.
And- yeah.
So you want to be able to charge the car conveniently, and so this is just another way to do it.
Right.
So Jesse, you distract them when we're at the factory. I'll go look at the
Pop the
charger.
charge for it. All you have to do is look at the door size.
That's true.
Well, I think we do need to know what's under the door. I mean,
I'm
they
gonna bring
could be
X-ray
coming out with
glasses.
they could be coming out with a new level 3 charger, level 4 charger,
maybe.
whatever they're going to come up
Yeah.
with. That'll charge the car in 2 minutes or whatever they're going to.
The current enhancement to the Tesla plug is same size plug. So they have, what is it? Oh, it's 400 kilowatt. There's another, so the exact same plug with a slightly different cable and a different supercharging unit
can
is
get
going to
way
be
more power.
way more power because it
Right.
has to be liquid cooled.
Right.
And then we've also seen the charger that comes up from the bottom. They filed a patent for that. It looks like you drive over it, and then it, with an XY stage, finds where the plug is, plugs itself in with cooling lines.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that way it'll cool the battery with an external
Right.
radiator.
Is
as
it
opposed to-
possible that the Model 3 would have that?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Maybe.
Don't know.
We don't know anything about
Well, look
that.
underneath it. Bring like one of those.
There you go.
Yeah,
Bring
bring
a
one of
mirror.
those mirrors.
I'll pretend it's a selfie stick. And I'm
Yeah, from the
oh, I
car.
dropped my selfie stick.
Yeah. We should take a list of the things that you want to see on the Model 3 and then just like, okay, yes, charge
So,
for it, yes,
that's something.
the
So
car, yes.
once the video is posted, that's something that the viewers can do as well, right? So
Yeah.
assuming timing is right,
Yeah.
is the timing right?
Oh yeah, let
So-
us know. I mean,
yeah.
if there's things you want us to check out in Fremont, please post below. All right, so if they started reservations for the Tesla pickup truck, who here would put down some money to? Oh yeah.
I don't even like trucks, but I would love that truck.
Exactly. Because I have a pickup truck now, and just it's hard because now that I have the Tesla and the Z06 and the pickup truck is undeniable utility. If I need to dump like bales of hay, I don't know why I would have hay, but
You need to haul
whatever
cars?
Parts of
Yeah, you
exactly.
need to
parts. And
when you guys go out and look at my truck now, it's filled with Tesla parts.
Let's go.
And yeah, let's go right now.
I know.
And I can't load that in the Tesla. Tesla's a nice car. I don't want to junk it up in the back. That would be paramount for me.
I've got some pictures of me doing runs with the Tesla to IKEA. You'd be surprised what you
Yeah,
can put into it.
I bet.
But I do think that when the Tesla pickup truck comes out, it's going to completely open this to a different segment of the population, right? Because you were mentioning there's how can people not have heard of Tesla? I think when you go to pickup truck, it's going to be these people who never would have even looked our way. You know?
That's going to be a harder market to break into.
You think so?
Because I think that the pickup truck image and the vibe, like a lot of pickup truck drivers like, oh, manly, pickup
Yeah.
truck,
That's
big
true.
old honking V8 or diesel. Tesla really has to knock it out of the park here.
I think that they will. I remember we were in Montana. We were driving back home, and I was about to do a drone flight or whatever, and the sheriff of
Oh yeah, that's.
where
I was
were we?
gonna
Was it
pretend I
Big
didn't
Sky,
know Jesse at
Montana?
that point. Yes,
it was in Big Sky, Montana. The sheriff pulls
Not
up.
my son.
Friendliest guy. He says, how are you doing today? Like, why are you
What are you
flying
doing?
a drone over someone else's land in Montana? Like, maybe don't do, and we got to talk about Tesla because obviously I was wearing a Tesla jacket. There's a Tesla, and,
Right, yeah.
he's just like, have to stick with this pickup truck. I'm like,
So, but you
well,
also have to
how come?
understand that with the pickup trucks, it's not. So there's a stereotype I think that maybe goes with the pickup truck that you have to understand that there are actually pieces to that stereotype. So this other truck I'm talking about, which is out, which is the Workhorse W15,
Yeah.
has a contract with people to now they have a manufacturing contract, and so there's already a market, like a seed to that market. And there are people that I know that are professionals in the construction industry, but they own the business or they're a foreman. They're driving a truck because you don't drive your Porsche onto the construction site for the skyscraper. You drive your truck onto the site. So I think there's actually, from a creature comfort and maybe a management level perspective, there's space for that. There's also guys who don't drive very far
Right.
and they need the utility of a truck, but they don't necessarily need the range.
Right.
So I think it's a good fit. There's tons of space in there for battery. It's mainly about cost. So if you have a business, and just like people did with the Model S and the Model X, you have a business, you can sink the car into that, you get a nice luxury car. You sink it into your business, it's a business expense, and you're done. And the cost for these cars, if you look at like a loaded gas pickup truck that's cushy for the executive, the cost is basically the same as an electric.
Swell into the
72K
70s.
Yeah, because the car companies price gouge because they know people will buy them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to. I think that they have so much potential just as a design company. Like, I don't just mean the looks, but I mean the utility that they could bring.
Sure.
Not having to have the drivetrain that goes through the back, which limits the bed height. All of that kind of stuff that
The fact that you can power your tools from the
From the
truck.
truck.
just have some outlets
And
on the
think
side of
about
the truck.
Powerwall. So on-site construction, do you have grid power or not?
Right.
No. Why don't you have a portable Powerwall in the back of the truck that you just power the site with? I mean,
Right.
like, there's lots of potential
You do
for
that.
Yeah.
And I think that and it'll be an electric car. It'll be an electric truck. There'll be videos of races between a big honking V8 and an electric, and the electric's just gonna take off.
Yeah.
It's just gonna zip on by, and I mean that speaks something, and we know that speaks something to people, even car guys, when they saw the Roadster, sexy sports car with acceptable speed, the Model S where it's just blistering and people just don't even know what to do, and they're just like, what about the Demon? And it's just like, no, like
Stop it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if that's what you like, it's fine, but it's
Right.
another option.
So I mean, I think that you're going to split that market, between the people who are, wouldn't ever drive an electric car and people who,
It's an
could change
all-American pickup truck.
It's an
That's true,
all-American
yeah.
pickup truck.
One of the most American pickup
All
trucks.
the
American
energy
pickup truck.
is coming from America if you get it through solar power.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
And the thing that I always like to
more
emphasize,
American.
yeah.
I always like to emphasize to people about gas versus electric is it's literally it's a 4-to-1 ratio in reverse. When you put $1 of gas in your car, for most drivetrains, like mid efficiency, not super efficient, not super inefficient,
It's like 10%,
80 cents of your dollar is thrown out
Heat.
the window.
Right.
It's all kinds of stuff. It's idling and,
all
and
heat.
it's
Yeah, it's
lost
gone.
in the drivetrain.
Right.
80 cents. Electric cars is exactly the opposite. You put $1 of electricity in your car, 80 cents is going towards propulsion and getting you where you need to go. So when you think about the economics of that, it just makes sense.
All right, this next question is for Steven here. Glad we have you today. So we just heard that the solar roof they're starting to build it in the Fremont factory in California.
Yes.
And our big question was, well, the Gigafactory 2, which is the Buffalo plant, was supposed to be where they build all the solar roof stuff, but yet they're starting in Fremont. Does this mean that Tesla is going to have 2 factories on each coast making the solar roof, do you think? Or
It's logistics. First and foremost, they started there. It was the one that was up and ready to go
Okay.
for starters, and then we're
Oh,
also
'cause-
going to be starting in California. Like all the roof deployment will start there
there.
and then work its way east. So Buffalo factory has been coming online and up to speed, but it's not just producing the solar roof tiles, but I mean it's been doing our panels. I mean Solar City and Panasonic team to make their own panels now. So we've had a lot of activity and a lot of different things going on at each factory.
Now, solar roof, I mean, it's just so exciting. We hear about each of these new developments coming out. So basically, it sounds like people are on the list now. It's going to be coming out in the summer. The first 2, it's going to be the smooth and the textured first.
Yes.
And then, 6 months later, we're going to be getting the tile and the French slate.
Some point in 2018 is when the other 2 will be coming out.
And then now on the Tesla website, you can go to their solar estimator and get a cost estimate for what it would cost on your roof. You put in your address, right? And it tells you, how much percentage do you think it should be solar, blah, blah, blah. And bing, 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 it tells you what it's going to cost. Like, that's huge. And I was just amazed to see that. And we tried many different scenarios. In almost every single case, it pays for your roof. Your roof is free over 30 years. Like,
Oh, and you're making money.
you're making money. You're making
Exactly.
bank.
Like you make on our roof, we made like
$100,000.
$125,000.
Right.
How does that work with the S-Rex? Is that like totally separate?
So it just the SREC market it's as long as that's in existence. I mean that's starting to phase out eventually because we've hit what we needed to for deploying clean energy. That was meant to accelerate the sustainability. So it still works with the SREX in terms of what you're producing. I mean you monitor, we monitor, and you monitor what you're producing, and you still submit that to earn your RECs out of it accordingly.
The number one argument I hear people say against solar is almost always aesthetics. And they almost always say, like, I don't really want panels on my roof. So I feel like this is going to change the game. Obviously, if you don't need a new roof, then probably not for you.
Right.
But roofs don't last forever, A. And B, there's new houses being built all the time. So it's what, 5 million new houses a year?
Yeah.
New roofs?
That's incredible.
So just that alone, like, seems like...
Exactly.
Start a roofing company.
Yeah, I know. Let's start a EV conversion company, a solar roof company. Like, no, I'm not even kidding. Like, this
Talking
is...
about Tesla. That's Tesla.
Right.
What you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's what they've been doing.
Oh, that guy Elon already took our idea.
Damn it.
Yeah, no, it's quite extraordinary to see. I mean, and it's not cannibalizing the market. It is, as you said, it's a roof replacement product. So panels will always have a place, and there's plenty of people that don't care. They understand the environmental aspects that we really have to take on, first and foremost. So
There's also a cost per square foot difference.
Oh, huge.
Which has to be considered.
and that's what it really comes down to too. I mean, budget is a big thing. It's like, look, you first you have to understand how long are you going to be in this home. You know, I mean, you figure out your return on investment calculation of does it make more sense to do one or the other. If you plan on being there long term, yeah, solar roof, no questions asked, because it also has that infinite warranty to it.
Oh yeah, I didn't even get to that. Like, you know,
Right.
I'm going to get a roof that's guaranteed for infinity or the life of my home, whichever comes first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, well, it's also proven. It's just like tin. I'm a big advocate for tin roofs in the first place, but it's like this is even stronger. At that point, it's like the levels of what we're able to do. Composition asphalt should have been done away with so long. I
know.
still can't understand it.
But
it's
even,
'cause it's just
Bitumen.
cheap.
Let's just
Right.
I understand. Yeah,
It's just
but-
like ice cars. It's an entrenched market. Eventually, it'll have its day.
of course.
So many people though, I get this question a lot, which is, oh, what happens when it snows on your roof? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, it's winter. There's not a lot of sun. You're not. I mean, that's not where most of your energy, generation comes from. But secondly, we have solar panels on our roof. The snow just slides right off.
Yeah,
a low
faster
impasse
than it
voltage
would-
has a radiant heat.
Faster
Right.
than it would with an asphalt roof.
So I mean, that is going to be sweet because not only are you getting a solar panel roof,
You don't have to worry about the loading
you
issues.
don't have to worry about
Yeah.
I mean, the panels are already going to be lighter than say slate or tile, especially tile's super heavy. Not that you get too much snow on places where you have tile roofs, but I mean that's a huge thing. And but people don't understand that a glass roof is going to be
Merely
slipperier.
frictionless.
Right.
And people are like, oh, it's going to get
Composition asphalt's
dusty.
granular. It adheres.
I mean, people think that it's going to get dusty and then, oh, I'm going to have to be up there and scrubbing it. It's like, dude, like,
Rain.
you know that solar panels work, right? Like,
You know, good actually, because we need to get at the top of that damn list. So
I totally agree.
And to that, Stephen, can our viewers get any kind of perk from knowing you?
Yeah, if you put your emails in the that's probably not in the comments, but send a personal message to you guys.
Okay,
I guess that'd
we'll
probably be the
pass
best
it on
way
to
go about
Stephen.
it.
Yeah, so
yeah,
if
so
you,
like get through us through like Facebook or something.
yeah,
and
so if
we'll
you're
get
looking
you
for
in
solar
contact.
roof information, definitely reach out to us. We'll get it to Stephen. All right.
Well, one last thing about the solar
sure.
roof. If you're going to put it on and you're only going to be there for 10 or 15 years, but it's going to last forever, resale value, you're looking to buy a house, either my house or Rob's house.
Right.
I have the panels.
I want your
the
house.
tiles.
Yeah.
You want my house every time.
You're not just buying a house, you're buying a power plant.
Sorry, Rob. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
okay. I'll just move into a portable home. Tiny houses are for me.
Tiny house. Tiny house with solar roof.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And a power wall.
off the
Off
grid.
the grid.
So Tesla explains to one of their Tesla owners why they are limiting the supercharging to his car. Did you guys hear about this? So this owner of a Tesla did nothing but DC fast charging, either at, I think, Chedemo's and at superchargers for I think it was the first 25,000 miles of the car. And then he pulled into a supercharger one day and noticed that he's only getting 90K of power instead of the normal like 135. Writes to Tesla what is going on, brings the car in, and they realize that software limited now because he's gotten so many fast charges and they don't want to hurt the battery.
Yep.
He's upset. I'm not getting my full fast charge. Tesla's like, well, we're trying to protect your battery. How do you guys weigh in on this?
I like the idea that someone's minding the lifespan of the battery. It's unfortunate that happens, but the reality of batteries is they measured the supercharging capacity of the car based on a certain duty cycle, use cycle, and if you exceed that duty cycle, there's two choices. You can either fry your $40,000 battery, or you can take a slight hit on charging, and that's just the way it works. So.
And I was kind of interested to see that sounds bad. Oh, you limited me to 90, but it's actually in reality only usually about a 5-minute difference at a supercharger.
Yeah,
so,
because you taper quite a bit. That
Exactly.
peak power only lasts for a few minutes and it drops off real quick. The idea is still full battery. 85 is a 50-minute or roughly 50-minute
Yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys, does that bother you?
It
That
comes
not a
down to
big
this:
deal.
you don't sleep. I mean, the fact that you're always needing fast charge, that it's like your phone. You plug it in at night. I mean, yeah, I go through it several times in the day. I'm sure most people do if you're really using it a lot. But plugging in at night, 5 hours. I mean, I know the iPhone doesn't take that long, but the charge, do a slow charge on a 240, it's 5 hours.
Right.
Okay, you wake up, you're good to go.
And I mean,
yeah.
but that's also an interesting thing because like my phone comes with a quick charger. It's this big wall wart or whatever, and they're like, use this special thing and we'll charge your phone faster, and it does, charges in like an hour. But I have noticed, and it always charges up to 100%. And I've noticed when I first got the phone, it would last 3 days battery. You know, just like, oh, what, you know, haven't charged this for a week. Oh, I still have, 76%. Great, that'll last me another week. But once you keep charging and keep charging, up to 100, down to 0, up to 100.
It's a function of the battery
You
chemistry and
have
the
to take
management
care of
system.
it.
So
Right.
the point of having a battery management system is prolong the life of the chemistry and the physical batteries you have.
Right.
So you have choices to make, right? It's not a gas tank, although gas tanks rot out too. But there's a lifespan to the product. So you have choices to make. And quick charging the car every day was never what it was designed for. So that's
Right.
I mean, that's part of the choice.
The only scenario I see that is if you live in a townhouse or something, you have a 110 outlet outside, and it's going to take forever to charge it.
Well,
and
so
you can't do it,
the
so,
limitation is only on the high power input.
Right.
So the reason that the car has been told to cap the high power input is to protect the chemistry of the battery. The time that it takes to charge on level 1, level 2, or high powered level 2 should be no different at all. It's specifically DC fast charging that they're limiting.
If I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I believe that for us, we understand battery technology, we understand the chemistry and the physics behind it, so we know that over time the battery degrades just like any other lithium-ion device, whether it be cell phones or lithium-ion battery packs.
Yeah, your drill, whatever it is. Yeah.
I think if I was your average consumer,
Yep.
I wanted an electric car.
Yep.
I wanted it to do these specific things. And I heard that they could charge for free and very fast.
Yep.
I think if over time that charging was slowing down,
Or you got charged for it, like some of the changes that were made.
I think I'd be personally
Yeah, and I
frustrated.
totally agree. I
I
absolutely
would.
agree. Your average consumer could have that attitude.
I would. Like for us, it's just like I get it. After a time, hey, my iPhone only holds a charge for, as you were saying, like a day or 2 days up from
Who hasn't experienced that? You buy a cell phone and a year
Right.
later,
Right.
the battery
Your
doesn't last
expectations
as
aren't
long.
met no matter what you
exactly.
do.
However,
It's like gas prices.
I think that there is an ongoing issue with Tesla. We could probably talk about this later, but they're in a lot of senses reactive to things. I wish this is one of the things, because they knew this.
Right.
Yeah.
They knew this.
Sure.
Right.
But
These are one of the things that they could have
Been more
likely
proactive.
been more proactive about, or at least put a statement out to say, hey, by the way,
Kind of like cold weather charging.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think the majority, like 99.9% of people, do not do supercharge all the time.
Right.
So it generally was
Right.
probably not
And-
going to come up.
And like we were talking about earlier, right? So now it made the news. Somebody complained and made a stink about it, and it's a
Yeah.
big deal because
It's a PR
one
hit.
guy who had one use case
Right.
has now been limited by the company.
And I do want to also put it like into sort of a perspective of like, this is a new technology. This is a new thing. It'll become the norm. We'll understand it better. It'll
or the
just-
technology got better.
That's
You
true.
may not have
We're
to
at
protect
the-
the batteries like this 10 years from now.
Right. No, absolutely. But I mean, like, even if it were to continue like this, I think people could get on board. I mean, imagine trying to sell someone who drives an electric car an ICE car now. You're like, okay, so listen, you're just gonna take this explosive juice, you're gonna put it in your car. That's fine, and then
Don't let your kid use
Wait,
the gas
I have to
pump.
change the oil. How
yeah,
often?
you have to change the oil after every
5,000?
Wait, what?
5,000 miles.
That's a
If
good
you
point.
don't do it, then the whole thing will break.
And if I run it in the garage with the door closed,
yeah,
what'll
you'll
happen?
die. You'll die.
Right, yeah.
You will die.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Right. I mean, it's
That's a good point.
there's a lot of bullshit that we
Put up with.
with an
Belts
internal
and-
combustion engine car. People just sort of are like, yeah, that's just how things are.
Yeah, because there's no other option for
Same
such a
thing
long
with a
time.
horse. Oh yeah, the horse will poop in the barn. You gotta clean up the horse's the stall.
That's a great segue to the next story.
Yeah,
Talking about bull and horse. Goldman Sachs has downgraded Tesla to $190 a share. So
Who?
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, we hear the story over and over again. We hear someone bumps it up, we hear someone bumps it down, And right now Tesla stock is plus 300, right? And now they're saying it should be around 190. At the last quarterly call from Elon, he said that he thinks there's a clear path for the company to get to $700 billion. Is about the value of an Apple. Many analysts were, and when he said this a year ago, were like, "What? What are you talking about?" And now they're going, "Oh, clear path to 700 billion." I want to we'll be showing you this on the screen right now. This is a chart of Apple stock, and the boys are like, "What?" A chart of Apple stock from when it started till today. And if you look at the first, up until the year 2000, you see it's a very flat. I don't know if Jesse has it up there or not, but it's a very flat little chart that you'd have to zoom in on to see any real movement. And if we were talking about Apple stock back in the early days, and I were to say to you, like, it's not going to be anywhere near this price in a decade, everyone would be like, what are you talking? Apple? What do they do? What do they make?
Right.
It's the same thing, though. It's tangibles. People see it as a product. The consumer-based society is just like, oh, so Apple's making this iPod, so what? What's that going to... Not realizing they're revolutionizing the music industry. Just like they're looking at us as, oh, they do cars, they do solar, they do batteries. It's like, yeah, but think of the network of what we're creating, what's possible out of all... You're not factoring in every variable of how valuable it is.
Very few people could have pictured at the beginning of Apple that we'd all be walking around with Apple products and using Apple things like iTunes on a daily basis. And if we had said that back then, you'd all be like, you're crazy, Zach. Like, how is it possible? I mean, maybe I would buy this big box that I put on my desk.
Fringe computer
Right.
element.
But other than that, what are you talking about? Music, I mean, my music is now on records. How could I possibly get it from the air? That's crazy. So goodbye. That's what we're talking about with Tesla right now, I think, is that we're talking about a lot of things that to most people, they don't even know about the electric car part, let alone power walls and roofs and all this crap. And then there's probably new products. I mean, we're talking about boring companies, right? We're talking about satellites blanketing the atmosphere to give us 4,000 satellites of internet coverage.
But you have to think about it just in terms of a business. It fundamentally changes. So if you go with the Apple analogy, it's the music business. So the music business had a model. There were lots of ways people made money throughout the stack. There was lots of ways that music got distributed. And what happened was that those two elements changed drastically because digital music became the norm. And it's going to be the same with anything, with energy. So do you consume energy from a grid? Do you generate it locally and store it? That's a huge change in the direction that market moves, and vehicles are no different. So that's where this, like you're talking about, it's all these other factors.
People aren't just taking it in.
Well, so if you add this, and this to this, that takes away this, and that is 80% of the market. So when you, like film, you took away film and print from digital photography, and that entire business evaporated because no one wants a physical picture anymore. Now it's resurging a little bit, and the same with music. We have vinyl, and there's these nostalgic and
that'll always be there.
Yeah,
Just
and
like I'm not
that'll
gonna Z06. Agreed, absolutely. We're always have
there's
that.
there's always going to be petrol heads. There's always going to be people like the vroom vroom manual transmission. That'll always be there.
There's always going to be people who like to ride horses.
Yeah. So
the whole thing.
What you're talking about is the day-to-day consumption difference. So what does your person who doesn't want to drive a car get into, and why? What does your person who wants to just listen to a music, they don't care how it gets to them, they just want to listen. How does that change?
Right.
And that's what we're talking about.
It comes back to energy. It's the fourth basic human need. It's what's necessary to life now for most people.
Yep.
And therefore, if we can figure out the best ways to go with the solutions there, Tesla.
It fundamentally changes that equation.
Exactly.
I think, Goldman Sachs is probably helping out a bunch of short clients that they have, trying to unload.
There's
The ones they had to help from, the burn.
Right.
Of course.
There's been short noise on Tesla forever. And all the shorters keep complaining about not being able to short.
I love Elon's tweets about trouble in short. I eat that stuff up. So
One of the reasons they were saying that is because the Model 3 is going to be delayed, which to me doesn't make much sense. Let's say it's delayed by 3 months. Does that make them worthless?
because they're so quarterly driven. They only see quarter to quarter. They don't see.
It's corporate. It's corporate finance. Right. So they're the people who are only in it for investing and don't have the vision of the change. Are only in it for the money.
And but every quarter it's going to get better and better. The Gigafactory is going to build out more batteries. The Model 3 is going to be online, and I
would love stock to go down to 190. I'd be picking up.
Thank you.
So please go for it. I don't care. That's awesome. Final story here is Damn Model X, I will call this story. Brent's going to call up a video here. This is in Hong Kong, and this is a 2-lane road on top of a dam, and some guy one day just launched his drone to get a nice shot of the dam. And then he noticed that there was this little traffic jam happening, and he noticed that car there that was causing it is a Model X. And so I guess what it is, this road is so narrow that normally, even under normal conditions, it's hard to pass each other. But with a bus there, it's almost impossible. And this is just a combination of kind of bad infrastructure mixed with bad driver, mixed with wide Model X and
a bus.
And a
on
bus.
Damn.
Wait,
I would like to know what happens when a bus comes in both directions. So
like have
just-
flags at the end of
this
the
is
bridge.
basically-
Yeah, I was just saying, that logistically they don't allow.
That drone is very smooth, huh? That guy's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
good at it,
impressed.
actually.
Just IS. It's just got a stabilized camera.
It's pretty good.
So basically, this guy has no clue how to drive his Model X.
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
it's not good. Not great.
What's going on?
I was gonna hit him from behind.
Oh no.
It takes actually
Autopilot.
people getting out of the car and like.
That's true. That sound.
Autopilot,
I
save
love
me.
that sound.
Save me,
Do you think he's
autopilot.
trying that? He probably is. He's probably
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, he's like,
and it's like, doo doo
No, no.
doo doo.
put it in park mode. Let's see if it'll.
I thought you were going to show something like he opened the going doors to or the Falcon Wing doors to
Yeah,
get
to
by or
flag
something.
people on.
What the hell?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's just having the biggest, hardest time.
And that drone's just kind of sitting there. Like,
Yeah, it's
watching
like,
this guy.
wow, look what I got. A
It's
great
fascinating.
shot.
This is.
Oh, he's going for it.
Oh.
Oh,
This is
oh.
unbelievable.
Yo, he has so much torque, he just pushed that bus out of the way.
Hey, in the future, there's not going to have anything to do with torque. He's going to put the ducted fans out, and he's just going to fly around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
VTOL. Yeah.
The problem is he's
Tesla
probably
drone.
the one that's also operating.
So wait,
the
so who
drone,
caused this
so-
issue here? Whose fault is
Well,
this?
that's my question. I mean, the bus is definitely somewhat at fault, it would seem, because he's over the line.
Right.
But whoever designed the road and allowed cars to go in both directions.
The motorcycle's like, screw this stuff.
Awesome.
I would do that.
Put the mirrors in and go.
That's pretty funny.
I'm trying to find where the actual dam is.
This is on Tesla.
Google
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if you go,
funny.
if you go to the Google Maps, I'm trying to find it right now. If you go to the Google Street View, there's a Model S on the dam.
Yeah.
There's so many superchargers in Hong
And now
Kong.
he's getting yelled at. Come on.
This guy's like, get me in your car. I'll do it. I got you.
I'll drive it for you.
You can tell that it's
Now
Hong
there's an
Kong
angry
because
mob.
it's taken them like a few minutes. If this were in Boston, it would have been like 8 seconds later.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
20
Hey,
guys.
let's
He was,
You got plenty of room.
I'm driving here.
They estimated that he had less than a can's worth of space
On each
between
side,
on
right?
each side,
Yeah.
which I mean, it seems like
Wait, wait,
plenty.
do you
Park
mean a
cars like
can
that
or
in
do
New
you mean
York
like
all
a
the
can?
time.
They said 0.12 meters.
You go into a garage in New York like that all the time, and you
Right.
can't get into the car.
Plus,
They
he's
just
got
picked up
his
the car.
He's got his rear view mirrors out extended. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why
this
didn't he pull them
shouldn't
in?
be that big of a deal.
don't-
He's just very.
They just picked up the
Well,
car.
he's driving a very nice new car. He doesn't have a refurbished car like you do.
I guess you're right, yeah. I just went for it.
Dolores would be just floored right through
and,
there.
And I think in any car would went for it. What are you gonna do? You can do that forever.
You can't.
Right. You can't
Wait
back
for the
up.
helicopter to come pick you up. You
Right.
can't. You gotta go for it.
Well, but why not just put a stoplight at each end and force the traffic to wait?
This
you
is
know,
a good
like-
Adidas advertisement, though.
Nice.
Yeah. This is why they wanted the bus to cross the dam.
All right. So I want to switch
planned.
To
stories.
get
From,
to the other side.
I want to switch stories
Naturally.
from the guy who can't drive to the guy who can drive. I added a link to the list to talk about the Neo car. Can we talk about the Neo car, please?
Sure.
On
Sure, yeah.
Nuremberg.
Oh, yeah. So,
fastest time
Yes.
on Nuremberg.
yeah, we cannot
Right.
show that footage. We got in trouble for it once before, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, so,
I've never heard
so
of that.
all you have to do is go look. So
Yeah,
fastest
we'll put
car,
the link.
fastest time on Nuremberg track is an electric car now.
Right.
And that's by
That's the second time it beat its own
and,
record.
and it's arguably a production car
Ah.
because
I can show it off here
What is
because
it,
the cameras
1,300
can't see it.
horsepower?
well, so because McLaren only has 7 actual built cars, and it's called a production car. The Neo has 12. I
Oh,
believe.
12, wow.
So,
But this goes
Love
back
it.
to one of the points I've made on
Thanks,
previous
Windows.
shows, which the car guy will appreciate. So, electric. So, whether electric has become a reality or not, for me, starts at the track. When electric vehicles are at the track doing crazy stuff, whether it's the drag strip with the guy who started, was it
Tesla Racing
Racing
Channel.
Channel.
Yeah, so there's like drag
Electric
tractors.
GT,
There's
yep.
there's all these different Rimac Automobile. So the green BMW he had, all that stuff once you have people doing stuff with electric cars that you can't do with gas cars, it's the beginning of the end, because that's just, I mean, it's just reality.
But do those cars need to have a big speaker in them that makes engine noises for those cars?
Yes.
I mean,
Not for the kind of drivers they're going to recruit.
I've heard so many people say that they can't live without that sound.
No,
Like that.
What
exhaust.
else?
Because they're too used to it. They'll get over it. They'll get over it.
Well, so, yeah.
The
think about it.
vibrations of the car.
Yeah.
If you give a guy $1 million prototype car to drive around the track at 200 miles an hour, he won't care what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's the solution.
It's the sense of speed. Because I was driving in my wife's car, and she drives a Honda. And I was like, wow, Hondas are really, really quiet. I was like, this is fantastic. It doesn't make a lot of noise. Yes, there's an engine in front that's not great, but they're very quiet cars. I went to the Tesla, and it's complete. It's not even close.
Right.
Even with a quiet engine like a Honda that has the NVH all squared away, the Tesla's a different level of quiet.
Right.
Because as I'm driving, I can hear people's conversations.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you're walking almost.
Yeah.
It's
You
a
can
very different
sneak
experience.
up on people.
You can sneak up on
I
deer.
do.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
sneak up
yes,
on deer
you can.
all the time.
Wildlife
Yeah.
is a completely different story now. I mean,
That's cool.
yeah. I mean, when we're driving, it's just like, is that a deer? You can stop.
And they don't
The
even know
car's
what you are.
Silent.
Right.
It's you talking that's going to scare the deer away more than
Right.
the car is.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to be showing it off to our local police force next week, and I mean that's going to be one of my selling points is that you can just sneak up on people.
criminals. Hey, this guy's stealing. I'm watching you.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Saw him the whole time.
put on the lights whenever you feel like it.
Right.
Not you don't have to go in there like
Yeah.
ready to
blaring.
chase this guy. You can just get the jump on him.
Yeah.
But so it's not only at the track, it's in other areas too. The fact that not a lot of people do conversions, not a lot of people do restorations on electric cars. There are signs that this is coming.
I think
and
it's-
the
I-
track is one of them. What you're doing is another that
I
people.
think it's slowly shifting when it comes to tuning. Like, I can't modify it. What if I want my car faster? Do I have to add more electrons? That's like one of the things people say. Really?
I've not heard that
You know
one
what?
before.
It's funny, but I somewhat agree because people enjoy the
get it.
tinkering.
Yeah.
They enjoy the
Agreed.
work
Yeah.
on modifying, and like right now, electric cars, that's not really a thing right
So
now.
it is. You add a different controller. You blow your motor. You add a bigger motor. You add a new control. Like
Right.
so that it's there.
But
it's
people
a different
want
mentality.
people want to be able to. I want to buy this Tesla Model 3, and I want to reconfigure it. I want a bigger front motor now.
Well, so
okay,
that
now I
hasn't
want
happened
more
because
power.
the hacking is still not
Right.
So taking your stock car
Yeah.
and doing more than it's rated to do, we're just starting to see that level of
Yeah,
tinkering.
it's still new,
Yeah.
but that's what people want. People when they buy their BRZs are one of the most heavily modified cars. Because from the factory they come with maybe 6 or 7 horsepower.
A lot of opportunity. Yeah.
And people just want to be able to I want to add different wheels. I want to add this
Yeah.
exhaust. The customizations are almost infinite. But
Sure.
for Tesla, it's a little bit limited. Like for mine, I've probably done next to nothing because you really can't. do too much.
So it's not because all the factory components are integrated.
Right.
It's not a good candidate. So this is
Exactly.
again where a conversion makes more sense, where you throw a bunch of batteries and a physical motor controller with an analog pedal
Right.
and a motor,
Right.
and you push those batteries until you fry them. You push that motor controller until you
Right.
fry it. So
But you have to have a brain to do that.
So it's a different
Yeah.
skill set. It's a
Right.
computer electrical.
and it's a lot more rare.
Do you
So
hear
for
that,
example,
kids?
if
Go
I-
get your degrees.
Right. If I
If you
want
want to do
go down-
burnouts in your electric car, you need to learn.
Right.
It's
If I, want,
study.
if I want a performance muffler installed in my Honda Civic, I bring it to Pep Boys and it's done in 10 minutes.
Right.
If I want a better controller for my homebrew electric vehicle, who do I bring it to? Bring it to you?
Don't you
Yes.
you unscrew 5 bolts, you screw 4 them in, and
Yeah.
you're done. Like there is no welding, there's no oil, there's no.
I think people are but like I said, people have been doing that for years now.
Right.
People are so scared of electric cars. It's not even
I
funny.
enjoy being on the bleeding edge, and I continue to stay there.
People are terrified of them. Even my wife, because remember, like I said, I've had a few Teslas pass through my hands, and one of the cars that I worked on today was a fire car, and people assume that the car caught fire because it was electric.
Right.
People don't realize that the car caught fire because the car that hit it
Caught
on
fire.
fire. And then, but I have seriously, yeah. And,
Wait, gas cars get fire?
it's shocking, right?
Wait, they're combustible?
So that's
It's internal combustion.
right. Yeah, right.
Wait, you
When
can't-
it's external.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's external combustion engine, that's completely different.
So they don't realize that the car that hit the Tesla, and I've had, I think I'm on my 3rd fire car now.
Wow.
So, and I have some pretty cool footage of that too. But in every single fire salvage car I've owned, the fire never penetrated the battery pack.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow.
I've had cars that have burned for hours on end,
Wow.
and the fire never got past the battery pack. I'll show you some neat footage. Maybe I'll send you the footage too, so you could see me up and close with it. But it's, I mean, the entire car melted. The entire roof structure's melted.
Wow.
There's the.
I was gonna say because the aluminum would have been pretty susceptible to the
Oh,
fire.
it melted. Yeah, it melted giant holes in
So,
the
but
car.
the battery pack is not aluminum. The cage is not aluminum
Steel?
for the
I
battery pack?
believe the battery pack is actually aluminum to
Oh,
cut
is
down
it?
on weight.
Oh.
But however, the way it's positioned in the car, it's so low, and there's so much. A lot of the battery pack is shielded by the body of the car as well. The only part of the battery pack that's not shielded is about maybe 6 inches worth.
Yeah, the front.
Right,
the front
It's a
lip.
frame within a frame that's built around it.
Exactly. So people don't realize it. So my wife said, I don't want this car. You can't
But
charge
this
car
is
in
a
the
headline
house.
though. Tesla car burns to the ground. Battery doesn't catch fire.
and it's only the negative because remember these cars have passed through my hands. I've actually touched these cars. I've removed the batteries from these cars. I actually removed a battery pack from a fire. Actually, there was a story about a car that caught fire in Canada. It was due to some faulty wiring in the guy's garage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So I purchased that car.
Oh, cool.
Wow. You're just on the lookout for
This guy, yeah.
Fire.
Wow.
have a problem?
I removed the battery, and you can't even tell. I took
Wow.
a cloth, wiped off the soot off top, and I have a video of that as well. And it looks like it just came off the showroom floor.
Wow.
They're
That's
very
crazy.
well shielded because that's their.
Now, let me ask you. So you have a lot of battery packs that you've put your hands on.
Right.
Do you sell them, or do you break them up and sell the cells themselves? Like, what do you do with your batteries?
For a
Saves the electrons for
yeah,
performance.
I'm harvesting electrons.
Put them in the back seat.
So what I do is I try to keep my costs as low as possible. So for the fire cars, because Tesla won't sell me parts because they know who I am.
You have a rep.
Yeah, I have a rep with them. So any part that I want, I have to buy a salvage car and get it from there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if I go on eBay and they don't have the car that I want, for example, I wanted to integrate the third row seating. There was a certain time where you go on eBay, you couldn't find a set of third row seats for months on end. So what did I do? Went online, bought a salvage car that had the third row seats, took those out along with, carbon fiber trim and all the cool stuff that I want that Tesla won't sell me, and put it into my cars. So
And then
after I
sell the
get
rest?
those parts, I sell the rest, recoup the money, make a little bit on top, and then
It must be
Get
hard
a
to
new
sell
car.
a battery pack, right? Because those are heavy.
no way.
Parting
yeah, I
out
was gonna
cars.
say,
Yeah,
I-
parting out cars is not hard.
Oh,
well,
really?
not an
Ba-
electric car.
The battery pack went like before I had it removed, I had a buyer for it.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it's very easy
A
because
lot of bubble wrap. I mean, how do you?
nothing at all. No, because
You put it in a crate and you ship it.
not even a crate. It probably I think total packaging cost for the battery maybe $20.
What?
What?
Yes, because you ship it. It's so heavy. It's about maybe 12 to 1,300 pounds.
Yeah.
I got 2 pallets
Yeah.
from the back of Home Depot. I put it on 2 pallets. I used a strap,
Yep.
strapped it around twice.
Oh, and they just forklift it on the
completely
pallet.
exposed.
Wow.
Oh.
They forklift it and you never see it again.
Wow.
And they
Wow.
drop off in front of the person's house.
So the only reason you would outside crate it is if you're like what? So
You don't even have to. The Tesla Model S battery is so well protected. I mean, it's its own ecosystem. It's heated, it's cooled. I mean, the entire structure is made out of high grade materials that even if the car gets into an accident, the battery won't be exposed by anything. So any forces that a moving company would exert onto it is
It's
nothing.
used to, right?
So I just shipped it as is. You could tell it. You could look at it and say, "Oh, it's a Tesla battery." Right?
Yeah. It's the shipping cost that's really high.
Right. Not even no. Believe it or not, it's
yeah,
not.
heavy shipping stuff like that is actually not bad.
You just
If
put it
it's
in
on a pallet,
you put it
it
in a
makes it
priority box and
Yeah,
then-
right.
Yeah, there's a certain amount
Pallet
that's
shipping.
less than.
to ship a 1,300-pound Tesla Model S battery, which is as long as this room,
Yeah.
it probably costs $160.
Why?
Why are you surprised? Why are you surprised?
I
Why?
can't ship 4 wheels and tires for
Yeah.
less than that.
Wow.
Seriously.
It's
That
because
doesn't
it's
make
freight
sense.
and it
Freight.
takes
Wow.
No,
Yeah.
2
Freight.
weeks or
of
something.
course it does.
takes.
It's a
Freight,
niche.
yeah.
Not everybody's doing it.
That's
Right.
awesome.
And
But it's
I've
size. The
learned,
amount of space is taken
I've
up.
learned
Wow.
so much about shipping, packaging.
It just shows you how much you
assembly.
overpay
Well,
for
we
that
just
little
get a
package
screw.
to
We're all getting
grandma.
screwed.
That's what it is.
That's
If
what
you
it
want to
is.
ship something that you think is going to cost over 100, ship it freight. If it fits on a pallet, just yeah.
Wow.
Thank you so much for joining us on Now You Know Off the Grid, and hopefully we won't take a whole 2 months before we get back on doing this again. Hopefully we can do this again next month.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome. See you
See you
guys.
guys.
But you guys.
Take care.